resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Hello, my next level friends. Sergio Gomez here, and I want to welcome you to a new episode of the Artist Next Level podcast. Before I introduce my guest for today, I want to invite you to download from our website the Artist Survival Kit. It's a free ebook that you can download with organization and productivity tools for the working artist. It's absolutely free, and you can download it at www.theartistnextlevel.com. Just go there, and at the top of the page, you will see a downloadable button for the Artist Survival Kit. Well, in this episode, I want to introduce you to my friend Christy Lee. Christy, better known as Christybomb, is a visual artist based out of New York City and Charleston, West Virginia. She was born in Louisville, Kentucky, and graduated from the University of North Florida. She received an MFA from the School of Visual Arts in New York City. Christybomb has shown both at major art fairs and international exhibitions, as well as having completed large commissions for public spaces. Her work has been acquired by major private collections and a foreign museum. More recently, she has also ventured into design, where she has worldwide exclusive licensing representation. And I'm super excited to share my interview with artist Christybomb. Hello, Christy. How are you doing today?
Great. How's it going, Sergio?
I am doing good. I'm so happy that we are able to connect here through this podcast, and we are looking forward to an awesome conversation with you.
Yeah, happy Friday 13th.
I know, right? I know. That is awesome, man.
Yeah, perfect day.
I know, perfect day for this. You are in New York.
Yeah.
I'm here in Chicago. We met a couple years, I think it was, in New York City, and through an opening. And we had a wonderful conversation that night. And then it's been really fun to follow you, over the last couple years. And I also visited you in Miami as well when last year for the show, which you had an amazing presence there, and to see the people interact with your work, that was pretty cool. And I stood for a little bit across your booth just to see the people, and it was really, really fun to see people of all ages, coming and interacting and just responding very in a fun way to your art. So we're gonna talk about that, about your art and everything that you do. But I just want to say that's pretty cool. So,
Thanks.
Christy, why don't we start a little bit with learning a little bit about you, which I don't know a whole thing about your story. So maybe tell us where you grew up, how you decided to become an artist.
Well, when I grew up, I was little, and I'm Korean American. I was born in the South, Louisville, Kentucky. And I grew up very shy, and my parents were very strict, and they had very traditional roles, and everything was very based on doing well in school and listening to your elders. So I was very shy growing up, and I was a daddy's girl, so I would always listen to what he wanted, and he really wanted me to stay focused and be a physician. So I was pretty good at science, so I went into pre-med. I did the whole shebang, and I actually have my undergrad degree in biology.
Wow.
But little did we all know that I'm very squeamish, and the sight of blood makes me scream. So instead of going the medical route, I became a lab rat, and I would work with viruses and bacteria under the microscope, which was super cool, because to see all these microorganisms under the microscope was really fun for me, and it brought out my artistic side. From there, I kind of had this moment in Japan. I was teaching there, and I thought, well, I don't know, what's going to make me happy? What can I do to make myself happy? And I decided to pursue art. And from there, I got my master's degree, Master's in Fine Arts, in Chelsea, New York City at the School of Visual Arts. So that was 2015. So I kind of took you for, I fast forwarded a lot there. But 2015, I got my MFA Fine Arts, and here I am. Today's speaking with Sergio.
That's awesome.
On the podcast,
so now,
yeah.
Christy, did you started with painting or mixed media, which we're going to talk about in a minute, what is it that you do now, but what were your first works, your formation works?
So I've always, because I'm so disciplined, I always think artists were supposed to be painters. So I started out painting, and then I found myself as I was painting, the flat surface wasn't enough for me. I wanted more. I wanted more texture. So I found myself mixing different materials with my paint to create kind of a textured surface. I would add glitter, I would add glass beads, you name it. And then after a while, it just became an assemblage of all the things that I love. And I would say I'm more of a mixed media artist today. I call them paintings if they're on a canvas, but I do sculptures, I do chandeliers, I do paintings. So I do all kinds of stuff. I don't like to put myself in a box.
Right. And how would you describe your art, for people who have never seen it?
So I use non-traditional materials. I'm the glitter queen. And so I use a lot of glitter, sparkly, iridescent materials. I would say it's a mix between Willy Wonka and Candyland, that type of feel. So very sparkly, colorful, and fun.
It sure is. I think you have a great description. But you also have other pieces that are a little bit more quiet too in nature. So Christy, after then finish your MFA, is that when you decided to stay in New York, or you had already kind of been introduced to New York City before that?
Well, I actually went to New York City because my husband was going to residency in New York City. So for me, it just happened by fate that I happened to be in art capital of the universe. And I found myself totally immersed in the art scene. You name it, they have it there. And I took advantage of it. I went to art openings, went to galleries, went to museums. And after I graduated, I just fell in love with New York City. Being a country girl, it was totally different for me. But I was very attracted to the energy of New York City, the vibrancy, the people. I just love it there.
And I think your work, in some way, it kind of captures some of that environment of a large city. Like could be New York City, it could be Mexico City, it could be any other large city where there's all these lights and all this continuous movement of people and things like that. So almost your work, each piece is a community made out of these tiny beads or the glitter parts and all these little tiny objects that, at the end create this amazing body of work that I think is a reflection also of your experience with a large city. Would you kind of agree with that a little bit?
Wow, I love that. I've never heard of that, but it actually makes sense because before New York City, I lived in Tokyo. Talk about, wild and crazy on a totally other end of the spectrum. So yeah, I definitely feel like my environment influences my work in a lot of ways, but I haven't thought about that. So yeah, I will agree with you on that.
Yeah, no, I see that quite a bit because, you have like this, particularly where you have a lot of circular forms, so almost like neighborhoods, within the larger piece. And they are all different, but at the same time, they all create this beautiful energy, this beautiful place. And of course, the color as well that you use is a big part of the work that you do. So I very much see a big city in the work that you do in that sense. That's when I wanted to mention that. So, how is it for you to, as you look at all these materials, which is not perhaps the traditional painting or materials that other artists might use, and how is it for you on a search for material? Like, do you buy all this online, or do you happen to spend a lot of time in like Michael's and stores of that nature? Tell us a little bit about that.
I'm constantly on the hunt. I compare myself to a bird making its nest, and anything shiny I'm attracted to. So it can be anywhere. On a daily basis, I'm always scanning my horizon. I'm always looking. So I'll go to the vintage shops around town. I go to Michael's at least 2 or 3 times a week. But I'm
my daughter will love you for that.
Oh, yeah, I go online late at night. I'm looking online. I'm constantly looking and searching, and it can even be in the trash.
Another kind of very strong element in your work is the eye, and you have sometimes 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe
or
multiples
20,000
or 20,000 eyes.
Yeah,
and some of them are kind of like these googly eyes. Other ones are more mechanical, or I don't know if they're electronic. They respond to movement, or I don't know exactly what it is. Which is something that when I was in Miami last year and saw your work at the fair, it was really fun to see the people react to that. Tell me a little bit about the eye, which is something that comes to be quite often part of your work.
Right. So it all started when I was living in Japan. I lived there for 2 years. And, I'm Asian, but I'm not Japanese. So going there was a total culture shock. Going there and hearing the language and the customs and the energy and all of that. And so I kind of felt like an outsider, kind of like Alice in Wonderland. I'm here in this place and I don't know where I am. And I found myself attracted to symbols, things that I am familiar with, things that make me comfortable. And I found myself in my artwork trying to, because art is a universal language, it doesn't matter what language you speak, you can relate to what you see in front of you. And I was trying to find something that was universal. And what is an easier symbol or a simpler symbol than 2 circles in a googly eye? There's a white circle and a black circle. But for some reason, you see that and it just makes you smile. If you know what that is, it doesn't matter what mood you're in. If you see those googly eyes, it just makes you smile. And I could relate to that so much. And so that was the first inkling of me thinking, oh, I could really use this for something. And so what I would do is just go and search for any shape, size, color, or style googly eye I can find. And so I would find, the basic black and white, and I'll find color, then I'll find some with eyelashes. And then one day late at night, I was Googling like I always do. And I found these mechanical eyes that you saw last year in Miami.
Yeah.
And they're randomized, and they kind of respond with each other, and they blink here and there. And it was just the simplest motion of these eyes blinking that just brought so much joy and happiness to me, and it just brought my work to life. And so I guess the short of it is the googly eyes just make me happy, and it's just something that I continue to revisit in my work.
Right. And I think there's also kind of a psychological aspect to the eye, especially when it's repeated in multiple times within the work. It's again, I think it's this kind of we are all being seen all the time through social, through all the things. We're exposed to so much. It's almost hard to keep anything kind of behind the scenes because we are constantly being watched by all things.
Right.
So,
Surveillance.
there's this other, there's also all these fun, things which at the same time, psychologically, they bring a truth about the world in which we live in today.
Right, totally.
And now, what has been, in your experience, as you have had exhibitions and have participated in shows and also in art fairs and so forth, what has been some of the most memorable responses from people that come to see your work, maybe for the first time?
Well, I find that my work appeals to the young and the young at heart. And so being in my studio, my work is very labor intensive. But the reward for me is going to my show and seeing people respond to my work. So for me, it's just relating to, I have kids as young as, a toddler up to, the older folk, but they all relate to my work in different ways. But it all goes back to nostalgia and happiness. So for me, that's very rewarding to have someone come and tell me, oh, I remember using those, or being able to speak to me in my language, but just smiling. And taking photos, things like that are very rewarding for me.
Yeah, and I can totally see that. So now, Chrissy, I want to veer the conversation a little bit from your work to yourself as an artist and managing your art career. Something that I love about you, and we were chatting about this pre-recording, was that I love what you have done with your branding. So you call yourself as an artist Christybomb.
Right, I'm Christybomb.
Yeah, you're Christybomb. So I want to hear a little bit where that idea come from for the name. And then also, you're very good at continuing your brand across platforms, through social media, through your website, through everything that you do. I mean, it takes 1 second to look at your profile in Instagram and know exactly who you are as an artist, what you do, and understand kind of the context of what you're trying to do, which is very good, because with all the noise that's out there, it's fun to find you, to discover you in social, and to continue following and getting kind of this brand that you are building for yourself, for your work, that differentiates you from any other artists who may be doing similar things. So tell me first a little bit about Christybomb. Where did that came from?
So Christybomb came very organically. I was just hanging out with a bunch of friends, and someone said, "Oh, hey, Christybomb's here," and it just kind of stuck. I've always wanted a nickname, and never could get one, and finally got one. And my friends just call me that, and I find that it works well with my work, because it describes the vivaciousness, the fun, the excitement in my work that I try with each piece to exude. And so that name kind of stuck, and I find that it works well with me. As far as my brand goes, I recently got my registered trademark for Christybomb, which I'm very excited about. It took a whole year to fill out all the paperwork and go through all the
process.
Steps, that was a long process, but it was totally worth it. So I have a registered trademark for Christybomb. And I also have an LLC, my own company, which I am the CEO. I'm very proud to say. I never thought this would be something that's possible for me, being a woman, being an artist. I never thought that this is something that was within my reach, and it's so exciting. And every day I'm very thankful for what I have. And so my brand is all about just my work and the vibe of my work, which is bombed out, colorful, sparkly work. And I plan to spread it into the world in the form of craft kits, accessories, clothing, pillows, you name it. And I'm very lucky to have a very supportive team around me, which consists of my agent, Carlin West. I have some awesome assistants who work with me, and just friends and family and fellow artists that support me as well. So.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. It's very refreshing, to see the entrepreneurial spirit within you as an artist, and then putting that also as part of your career. And at the end of the day, whatever you do throughout the day, it's part of what you do as an artist, right? And you have to make decisions on your brand, on your business. That's a business in itself, and it all at the end of the day. You are satisfied that when you go to bed, it's like, well, I work towards the future. I work towards something that's, even if I was just doing paperwork today for the business, but it was still part of who I am as an artist, and you're in control of your career, which is great. That's
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So, Christy, now let's talk a little bit about some of the highlights of your career so far. What have been some of the most fun things you have done, or some of the things that you feel more proud of? And you've been quite busy lately. I've been following you.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I want to thank you. You've been very supportive of me in my career. Can't thank you enough. And our next level, It's been awesome. As far as my career goes, I would say a huge milestone will be getting my registered trademark, which is a total dream come true. I'm so excited. I finished a few major commissions. This year in April, I was a featured solo artist at Art Expo New York City, which is the largest fine arts fair in the world. I've also recently finished up with RuPaul's DragCon New York City, which was the first one ever in New York. And I'm a big fan of RuPaul and drag queens in general, so it was super cool to be a part of that event. And I plan to do it next year as well in LA.
Okay.
I also have coming up Art Basel Miami this year, so I think
Very cool.
those are the big highlights and what's coming up for sure.
That's awesome. So how did you prepare for a big show? Let's say, you're right now, we're right around the corner to Art Basel week. And, what's your studio like right now? How do you prepare for the show? How many pieces are you doing? And so tell us a little bit about behind the scenes fun.
Well, behind the scenes, basically my life is my art. I live in my studio. Right now I have a big table full of this huge board. It's about 5.5 by 6 feet. And I have a time-lapse camera that I just started I'm very excited about. And every day I just come in and work on it. Oh, you saw it?
I saw the post that you posted. You were excited about it.
Yeah. I find with my work, because I do use a lot of non-traditional craft materials, people can relate to my work, and I don't think it's totally obvious how much time I put into the work. So I think doing a time lapse would give people an idea of my process, which is very, very, very time consuming, and I am my worst critic. So I'm excited to have the time lapse just to kind of document all the steps that I take. My studio right now, I'm looking around, I have a mix of everything. It's very colorful. The best way I can describe it is like if a glitter bomb exploded everywhere. That's what my studio looks like right now.
I think my daughter one day would love to be your assistant there, or your intern for the
I
for
would
the
love
summer.
that. Yes.
That is so cool. So and also over the last couple of years, your studio has grown, and now you're working with a team as well. Tell us a little bit about that process. When did you realize that, well, in order to continue growing my career, I can keep doing this by myself, or I also need help and I need the assistance of others to come and join my team?
Right. Well, they always say it takes a village to raise a kid, and I always say it takes a village to raise an artist, because as artists, we tend to want to do everything ourselves, but we can't. And I came to that realization earlier this year. I had this huge commission to finish, as well as a big show I had obligations to, and I just couldn't do it all. And so that was when I would reach out to my fellow classmates from grad school. And I find that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to work together as a team. In fact, I work better as a team anyways. And so I went from a home studio, which I always love the idea of having a home studio because I am a homebody, to having a studio outside of the home. So it's like I'm reporting to work every day, which is, I'm kind of cheating because it's not really work for me. It's just fun. But I've been able to trust other people and work with their energies and really like bounce ideas off each other. So I think it's the best thing I've done is to expand my practice, allow other people to come in and kind of open my doors to other creative energies.
Was it hard at the beginning to kind of, work with the concept of letting go of some of the parts of the production or the process to other people? You can, you're letting others inside your world,
Right. It was very hard because I am very OCD. I'm very OCD when it comes to work and very controlling, and letting other people into my world and showing them my vulnerability was hard at first, but I think I got over it in grad school because they really teach you to kind of like really search within yourself and be able to trust your people and be able to form a tribe, which is another reason I love Art Next Level, is because it's a tribe that you're forming with like-minded people. I find that they keep me on my toes. I keep them on their toes. And it's fun just to work together as a team. I'm still adjusting to it. There are times where I just want to be by myself and just do my own thing. But I find I am growing as an artist by allowing other people into my studio and just trusting other people, which is something that I
Right.
think we as humans always struggle with. But I definitely think it's helped me, and I'm very grateful for all the people that are in my art world.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And I think, there's a sense of accountability too when other people are part of what we do. And that's like, for example, for me working with my wife in the Art Next Level, and she's also kind of my studio manager. It just gives me a sense of of responsibility too, to make sure things are running and that we are in constant conversation and rolling things so that it's not just because you can be really busy just running around in circles, right?
Right.
But when
I
you
know,
when you have
like chasing my
yeah.
tail around circles.
but,
That's how I feel.
but when
most
I
days.
know, but when you have a team, then you have also other people that you can bounce ideas that you can then
Right.
continue that conversation. And sometimes they see things that we don't see, or they point
Yeah.
out things that we haven't noticed because we are so busy in the process, in the work itself. And
Right.
I think that is really cool that seeing your studio continue to grow, and that at the end, it's gonna make you a stronger artist for the future and prepare to scale things up.
Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
so.
And that is cool, Chrissy. Now, I would like to ask you this question because this podcast is a podcast that's listened by artists all around the world. And uh, in your case, what would you say to an artist who may be struggling out there to kind of get their feet out, get their name known? Sometimes it feels like, again, talking to artists just about every day, that many artists sometimes feel like it's overwhelming. This overwhelm
Right.
of you have to
Right.
be everywhere, you got to do everything, you got to do all your socials, you have to produce, you become the marketing person, you become the cleaning lady, you become everything, right?
Right.
And it's
Right.
part it's part of the deal of becoming an artist in today's world. But what would you say to an artist who maybe is struggling right now? And it's not always emerging artists, sometimes maybe already an
Right.
established artist who may have lost gallery representation, maybe gallery closed, and now they find themselves having to manage it all from the start. So, what would be some tips that you would give, given what you have learned so far in your art career, and from somebody who I respect a lot on how you manage your brand?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would say that I feel you, whoever's listening, and you feel overwhelmed or, you feel paralyzed with what to do. I am there with you every single day of my life. I find that, what I learned in art school was in my art business program, which Judith Page was my professor at SVA with my art business class. And one of the things we learned is when you are a fine artist, you are a one-man band. Because every other artist you think about, whether it's a singer, an actor, whatever, they have a team, they have an agent, they have a manager, they have this, they have that. But as a fine artist, you are your team, And so it's up to you to build your own team with your tribe, with your people. Instead of being paralyzed with fear or afraid or not knowing what to do, I find the best way to get over all that is just to do it. Just do it. So it all goes back to the art. Put the time in the studio. That's what it's all about. Forget all these openings and all these photos and all this glamour and keeping up with, your neighbors and whatnot. It's all about putting the time in the studio, making your art, because it all goes back to the art in the end. And then from there, if you do what's in your heart, and you're making your art and you're giving it out to the world, everything will fall into place. It's very important to prioritize. I do think it's important to have a social media presence, whether it's posting one photo a day or one photo a week, whatever works for you, do it. Don't compare yourself to anyone else because you don't know what they're going through, what they're living. It's just all about being true to who you are, and when you are true to who you are and you make the work that you want to make, people will respond to it. And if they don't, screw them. You just want to surround yourself with positivity, and just continue doing what makes you do your work every day, because you can't make it for anyone else. You can't make something because it's a fad. Oh, I need to make this because everyone else is doing. No, be true to who you are. Keep doing what you're doing, and in time, it will all fall into place.
Awesome, Christy. That was a bomb. That was words of wisdom, next level stuff. Very good. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. You are absolutely right. I agree with you. It all starts in the studio, right?
Yes.
And that is our priority as artists,
Totally.
as cultural workers. The thing that happens behind, or sometimes the things that nobody sees, is really what makes the difference. What will everybody see at the end? So
exactly.
Thank you so much for that insight, Christy. So as we get closer to the end of the program, I always like to ask the guest if you can tell us where can we find you, both on your website and social media. Where can we follow you?
Okay, please follow me. My website is christybomb.com. It's super easy. Christybomb. Christybomb.com. Instagram, it's Christybomb, and Facebook, it's also Christybomb. It's very easy. Upcoming, the end of this month, I have my Therese video, individual video coming out, which I'm very excited about. The collaboration with a fashion brand in New York City called Therese. They're really cool. So to see that, just follow me on Instagram, Christybomb. Just catch me. I'm sure I'll see you, Sergio, in Miami this year for our Balzo Miami week.
Awesome.
And then Freeze, New York City next spring. I'll be a part of that, as well as I'll have a huge solo show next year. But all of these things, if you could just follow me on social media, I will be posting as much as possible. So I would love to hear from you. I would love to connect with you. I've connected with many of you, and I would love to meet some of you in person, if not on virtual statuses. I'm excited to meet every one of you.
That's right. Thank you so much. And we have to bring Christybomb experience to Chicago one of these days, huh?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I really want to work with you, and I love Sally
Really
Coe.
cool.
Shout out to Sally.
Of course.
I
That's
love
awesome.
Chicago, so I'd love to be back there for sure.
Very cool. Before we close, tell us a little bit about this collaboration that you mentioned, this video collaboration. What's that all about? Give us an insight.
Okay. I would love to talk to you about this. So I find that my work is very universal in that people can relate from all ages. And in my work from last year, where you were at the show for Miami, someone that came by liked my work a lot, and I did a huge commission for them. And then from there, I was asked to be one of the 4 artists that were featured in a video, which you can see on my Instagram. We have the 4 women video on my Instagram right now. And I have a personal, like an individual vignette coming out at the end of this month. And it's basically about fearless women in the art world, or just fearless women doing their thing. So we have, in the video, there was a boxer, a ballerina, a Rice Krispie treat maker, and then me, a fine artist. And so it's just another way of me getting my name out there, my work out there to other people that I probably would never meet. So I may be doing collaboration with them in the future for other things, so stay tuned.
Very cool, very cool. That's cool. Thank you for sharing that, and we look forward to seeing more Christybomb in our social media and more everywhere as well. So with this, Christy, I want to thank you for spending time with us. I know you have a busy day, and you're probably surrounded right now by things that you could be doing in the studio, but I want to thank you for your time. Any last words before we close?
Well, any last word? Let's see. Keep it bombed out. Keep it colorful. Keep it sparkly. Awesome. And
that's right.
Be who you are. Don't be what anyone else wants you to be, because that's very important.
That's right. That's right. Well, thanks so much, Christy. I want to thank all our listeners today. If you love this podcast episode, please share it with your friends. Share the Christy love as well with the episode to your friends. And thanks for being here with us. And I will see you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.